At this time, I'd like to call to order the Certificate of Appropriateness meeting. Welcome to the July 22nd meeting of the Raleigh Historic Development Commission Certificate of Appropriateness Committee. My name is Vershay Height. If you haven't already, please make sure you sign the attendance roster. It's up here at the front. Also, please pick up a copy of the agenda and the meeting procedure. Staff reports are also available if you need them. Okay, we'll go and do quick introductions. Again, my name is Vershay Height. I ask that you all would bear with me. This is my first time chairing this committee tonight, or this commission tonight. So forgive me if I kind of stumble a little bit. But I'm Vershay Height. I am an architect here in Raleigh, North Carolina, practicing at a firm here, live in Raleigh, North Carolina as well. And with that, I will pass it, actually start with Sandy and keep going from there.
Hi, Sandy Feaster. I'm a graduate of I have an MS degree in historic preservation with Clemson and the College of Charleston.
Ian Dunn. I work at the State Archives of North Carolina, and I'm a Raleigh historian.
And I'm Francis Raspberry. I'm not a member of the committee, but I am legal counsel to the committee.
Janine McAuliffe, and I'm a residential designer here in Raleigh. And my background, my degrees are in architecture.
Curtis Casefang. I'm a theater consultant, live in Oakwood, and I'm a returning commissioner, and this is my first meeting back on the commission.
Great, thank you, everybody. Okay, we'll just dig into it now. Okay, so to start, if we could have a motion to waive the reading of the minutes from our July Certificate of Appropriateness meeting. A motion, Janine, and a second, Ian. All in favor of waiving that? Do I need to go that far? Okay. All in favor of waiving the reading of the minutes, please raise your hand still, or say yes. Oh, sorry. First time. This is also our first time back in person, guys. Okay. I don't. How did you used to do it?
I'll say aye.
Okay. I'll say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposition? All right, great. And that's unanimous. Okay. Let's see, are there any corrections or additions that the commissioners would like to bring forward for the meeting minutes from last month?
I think you said minutes the first time, but I think you might have meant agenda.
I'm sorry, the agenda. Okay. It's still under the minutes section, though. I'm confused. So,
You're fine, yeah.
Okay.
You're fine.
Okay.
So if you want to do the agenda now, since you just approved the minutes, yeah, it's just...
I just waived the meeting minutes. I didn't approve the minutes. Is that two separate things? It's two separate things on here.
This is just regarding tonight's agenda,
Okay.
business and hearings.
Okay, so we'll jump to agenda now. Okay. Sorry. All right. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved.
Curtis, a second?
Second.
Okay, from Janine. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposition? All right. That's unanimous amongst the board. Okay. Let's see. Between June 9th and July 7th, 2021, there were 12 minor work applications processed by staff. I think I need to say anything else about that. Okay. All right. Now we are ready to hear applications. Prior to meeting, notice has been sent to property owners within 100 feet of the properties in question. Legal ad placed and signage has been posted at the site. Commission members have received a copy of each application, staff reports, and were to have visited each property. Staff reports were made publicly available with the agenda. North Carolina law provides that major work applications must be approved in evidentiary hearing and that persons have an opportunity to address an application if they desire. Did I miss summary proceedings?
One thing I think we have, Madam Chair, before the hearing begins on old and new applications, we do have findings and conclusions in a case that was heard in previous sessions. That's the 713 Hinsdale Street case. And if y'all may recall, that was a case where It was quite complex, and the findings and conclusions were challenging, and so we suggested that the findings and conclusions be deferred for formal acceptance until this session. And in the intervening time, staff has had a chance to put the findings together according to the record of the case and the decision that you made, and I have reviewed them and made a couple of suggestions. And I think that'd probably be appropriate to handle before the hearing begins on new business and applications.
All right. Thank you for that, Raz. Okay.
So this is somewhat unusual. Do you want me to?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. So as Raz just said, at the last meeting, you made a decision on this application, but held off on officially going through the findings of facts. And you approved the application with conditions, but also asked that staff review what was submitted to make sure that, you know, the conditions that we had listed and what the applicant had provided meshed. Both of those things were added to board docs and were sent to you for review. As Raz mentioned, he did make a few small recommended changes earlier today, and I have a copy with those changes. Mostly they were fact-based, did not impact the conditions or the certified record. I can go through the changes that he suggested if you'd like, however you want to do this.
Please.
Okay.
I'd like to hear him.
Okay. Yes, please go through the changes.
Sure. So one of the recommended facts was just noting, I added it as number 2, that Glenwood Brooklyn is a street-side historic overlay district. Mm-hmm. This is something that is found on the certified record as part of the introduction, but didn't carry over into the findings of fact document. So I added that condition. He also recommended that in fact, what is now 7, formerly was number 6, that we just note the date that the previous application, which was COA 003-2020, was approved, and that was in February of 2020. He also noted that in fact 11, which is now fact 12 in my version, that the fact used the word congruity, and he recommended that that be changed to be consistent with the guidelines. So that word was swapped out, and that was also changed in fact number what is now 22 about wood textured fiber cement siding. He requested that a sentence be added that say that wood textured fiber cement siding is not typical in the Glenwood Brooklyn district, and that it has not been previously found to be consistent with the design guidelines. And those were the recommended changes.
Now we're going to vote on whether we approve
Right, so
or discussion.
one of the things that was left over from the last meeting, if there is anything about the conditions that you want to discuss that was left out from, you know, what you had in your conversation and what was originally in the minutes. Largely they stayed the same. We did alter some of the first ones to reflect the windows that were discussed in the meeting, and also to reflect that the applicant said that they would be replacing them with 1/1 clear glass. And I believe the shutter condition also was added because that came up in discussion as well.
Procedural questions, since
Yeah.
I'm newbie. I assume we're first voting on the findings of fact and then voting on the conclusions of law to
That's a Raz
be followed
question.
by the decision? Is that how that we're working now?
This, not necessarily. The findings and conclusions and the decision were put to a motion.
Okay.
And so this application has been approved with the conditions that were voted on
Okay.
and approved last meeting. So, and typically carrying forward that cleaned up set of findings and conclusions in order. That's routine. It's just included in the minutes. It's just this case, things were complicated enough and there was enough confusion about the details, we thought it was best to bring it back a second time for final approval. So I think, and since it's significant enough, it was pulled from the minutes to be voted on separately, but it will be physically a part of the minutes. I would suggest one motion would be fine, that these findings, conclusions, and decision as finally edited and presented tonight would be the conclusions in the case.
May I suggest we add an additional conclusion of law? I saw in the record there was a lot of discussion about the siding and whether or not it was actually maintenance versus a replacement that occurred. And I'd suggest that we add a conclusion, number 7, that the in-kind replacement repair of the vinyl siding is not reviewable under the COA process per the guidelines. Because nowhere did we really come to that conclusion in the record.
Let's see, I guess it's number 19 on your copy, perhaps. It begins application COA 003.
And that's a fact, but not a conclusion.
Okay.
Right? Does that make sense?
I'm hesitating because I thought I had recalled
Yeah, we kind of got close to it on conclusion of law number 2, but didn't quite state that it wasn't reviewable.
You know, I don't think that would hurt. I mean, I think it's just consistent with the rules and practices of the committee. So it certainly wouldn't hurt to just add that for clarification.
Okay, well, I'd like to.
That's just my opinion about that.
Propose that we amend the conclusions of law to add that number 7. The in-kind replacement repair of the vinyl siding is not a reviewable condition under the COA process.
Do we need a second to that? Do we need a second to that?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
a motion and second.
All right. Do we have a second to that motion?
I second that.
Okay.
And
Okay, and a motion to approve. Can we get a motion to approve?
want to do it?
Oh.
I'll do it.
Go ahead.
Because this is, should we follow our general template again? Because this is an atypical thing, should we follow our general template of naming the findings of fact? I'll do it.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, well, it's, our general template says that at this point I should say that I move that based on the evidence presented during the application, during the evidentiary hearing, the committee finds that.
A motion along those lines was already made and carried at the previous meeting. So this is just simply formalizing the approval of a cleaned up and edited restatement of that motion, the action that was taken at the previous session. So it's probably.
Then I move that we approve the record of the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and as amended here today, and the decision is already dealt with, right?
Yep.
So that's the motion.
Right.
We approve the amended findings of fact and conclusions of law.
Second.
This just formally approves the paperwork, in other words.
Second. All right. We have a second from Sandy. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Any opposition? All right. And that's unanimous amongst the commission. All right. Okay. Is there any other kind of, it was just for that one.
The committee review of conditions, and I don't think that is part of the evidentiary hearing. There was not material in board docs on that. So Colette, what we're talking about the condition.
Sure.
Okay.
So is anyone here for the case for 610 Polk Street? All right. So the applicant had indicated that they might not be prepared to be heard at tonight's meeting. So given that there's no one here to speak on it, I'm assuming that's the case, and we can vote to defer.
Okay. Do we need a motion for deferment?
We do.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion to defer?
So moved.
A second? Okay. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that is unanimous. Okay. All right.
So there are no summary proceedings tonight, so
Okay.
we can move directly into the evidentiary hearings for old applications.
Okay, great.
Since there aren't as many people here, it might be a good idea to ask first to see if the applicants are present before we.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yes.
Without objection, you should
Yes.
probably declare the evidentiary hearing open
Okay.
before you start to go into the cases.
All right. Without objection, I'd like to declare that the evidentiary hearing is open. Is there any objection to opening it? Okay. Let's consider it opened. All right. Is the applicant for COA case 0060-2021, 207 Linden Avenue present? Okay.
Move things around.
So it's hardwired in. Yes.
That's new. Okay.
Well,
I'll have to go over there.
Do we need his name and address?
I'll take care of it.
Okay.
Where they testify, usually you just ask for them.
Sorry.
Just introduce himself,
It's a
sort of
little
separate
messy here.
from the swearing. Should I pass these? It's really not critical.
Yes. I'll actually hand those out for you. Thank you. Do you wanna? Then I'll get out of your way.
Okay.
Ready when y'all are.
All right. I'm going to swear you in now. And you too. Okay. Could you do you state your own names? Yes. For the record? Do they need to
We
state
just
their
need to
names?
have the record show who was sworn in and to verify that the speakers were sworn.
Ready?
Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. I do. Great. Okay.
All right, so this is case COA 0060-2021 for 207 Linden Avenue. It is in the Oakwood Historic District, and the request is to construct a screened porch addition with an exterior fireplace. Next slide. This is a view of the house from Linden Avenue. Next slide. This is a view from the rear yard looking back towards the house. Next slide. This is a view still looking at that rear facade, but closer toward the end of the driveway. Next slide. This is a view looking at the existing garage and pergola at the end of the driveway. Next slide. And staff's suggestion is to approve with conditions.
At this time, if the applicant, if you have any comments or would like to speak.
Yeah, sure. So thank you very much for having me. The conditions, as I understood them, was to outline that we have a tree protection program. I think on the last meeting, we were asked about that, and I said we didn't have any trees in the yard, actually. So there was one tree that's on our neighbor's property that's 6 or 8 feet away from where the furthest post may go, or not a post, but the brick may go for the one corner of the porch. And you can see the report here that the arborist did not see that as an issue and will be helping us do any trimming that's necessary to make sure we don't run into any issues there.
I'm sorry, could you please state your name for the record?
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Mike Farmer.
Thank you. At this time, do any of our commissioners have any questions for the applicant or staff?
There was a couple other things I was asked for. I could just run through real quick if you guys want.
Absolutely,
Okay.
by all means.
The couple of other things was that it was asked where there'd be downspouts, if any, and where the gutters would go. If you look at the third page in here, you'll see, probably is the easiest view of it. There'll only be downspouts kind of on the furthest west side of the porch. And you'll see those kind of on each of those corners. And then there'll be a floodlight that'll go on the south side, the southwest side of the porch. That'll be overlooking kind of the garage and the corner of that porch. That would be the only lighting we'd intend to put outside there. And then the other question was around the materials we'd be using for the foundation. If you look at the last page, what we're going to do is build exactly to match what's on the existing house today, which is the brick with the wood lattice in between each of the brick pillars. And then the last thing was around railing. This porch is about 2 feet off the ground, so railing on the porch itself is not required. The only railing that would go on is on the stairs, right outside the stairs going down, just from a safety issue. Stepping out the door there, you can see it right on kind of the side of the door, which would be normal. So. And that's all I had.
All right, thank you, Mr. Farmer. Are there any questions from the commission for Mr. Farmer?
I do have a question. So there'll be no porch railing, and it looks like there's a infill system. Is that like a screen system, the Easy Breeze?
Yeah, it's an Easy Breeze. It's the screen comes in one unit for each opening that's there.
Okay, it's a solid screen, basically,
Yeah,
insect screen.
there's a picture in the original
Okay.
documents that was put out.
Okay, thank you.
It's got a real clean look to it.
A question for staff. Is this an appropriate time?
Yes, please.
Seeing that the house was moved to its current lot, it does not have a historic built area. Is the built area to open space ratio or the built mass to open space ratio significantly different from the surrounding properties or what is typical in this area of Oakwood?
That was not provided,
Okay.
so I can't speculate on the built area of other properties.
Would it be possible to take a look at IMAPs for the area just to get a sense of that? Can we bring that up as part of the hearing?
I actually have no idea. We have not done that previously.
Okay.
I would tell you, looking around the neighborhood, it's not significantly different. I mean, the properties are pretty small and people build to the lot line in most areas. So,
Living there, I can concur with that.
And I think too, just relative to what is existing, this is a very small increase according to the calculations.
it's
given.
replacing a port or a really dilapidated brick patio that's right there. So basically, we're going to pull out the brick paver patio and put a screen porch on top of that.
Yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Farmer? Okay, at this time, I'd like to close the public hearing. I'm sorry. Before I do that, is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, great. All right. At this time, I'd like to close the public hearing and turn to the internal discussion amongst the commission. Are there any comments that anyone has?
No, with the discussion about the built area, I think the big question is resolved. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, would anyone like to make a motion? Janine?
Sure. I move that based on the evidence that's been presented in the application and during this evidentiary hearing and staff's evaluation, that constructing a screened porch addition with an exterior fireplace is not incongruous according to guidelines 1.3.1, 0.2, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 3.2.1, 0.2.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 3.2.10, 11, and 12. And facts 1 through 13.
Second? Can I get a second? Sorry.
Second,
Okay.
and I'd like to amend 2 facts.
Okay.
I'd like to amend fact 12 to say that the gutters and downspouts shown on the drawings were shown on the drawings, but specifications were not provided. And 13, that exterior lighting specifications were not provided.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Quick question.
And you have to accept,
I have to accept the motion first and then the amendment second, right?
yes. And
Okay.
we've,
Okay.
well, actually, she has to
I have
accept
to
the
accept.
amendment, and then we, yeah.
I accept those
Okay.
amendments.
All right. So do we need now a motion to approve
We do want to keep
or a follow-up?
Yes, this motion, that would be appropriate to put on the floor now for a vote.
Okay.
Right, for the stair. Okay. And can I make a second motion?
Yes.
Okay. And I move that an application, I move that a certificate of appropriateness be approved with the following conditions. Let me just read these really quickly. 1 through 6.
Second.
Right. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And that is unanimous. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Farber.
Thank you very much.
This is already my.
It's a unanimous.
Okay.
May I request to recuse myself for this next case because it comes through my office?
Yes. Can I get a motion, or can I get a motion to recuse Janine for this case?
So moved.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Miss yes.
And I think, Madam Chairman, the record should probably show that she has been recused because of a business interest, this matter being taken up with by the firm
Yes.
with whom she's employed.
Okay, great. All right. Okay. Let's see.
All right, can you all hear me through this mic? Okay, great.
Okay.
So this is case COA 64, 2021 for 415 North Boundary Street in the Oakwood Historic District. The work request is to install new awnings on non-historic garage, remove existing rear person door, install new side person door, alter existing front garage door, install new rear garage door, and construct a 4-foot tall fence. This is a shot of 415 North Boundary. From North Boundary, you can see that this is a corner lot. The majority of the request is for the garage, which is off to the left side of this photograph. This is a detail shot of the garage building from North Boundary. And a side elevation, east facade, the rear of the garage and the other side, and a shot of the side property line and driveway area. Staff suggestion is to discuss the congruity of the second garage door, its proposed all-glass design, and the installation of a rear awning on a garage, and to deny the installation of the awning on the front of the garage and approve the remainder of the application with conditions.
All right.
And then we've got your presentation here.
At this point, we'd like to hear from the applicant. If you could please introduce yourself.
My name is Will Alphin. I live at 926 Tower Street in Raleigh.
Okay, great. And Will, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Great. All right.
Mr. Alphin, if I may just make one comment to you before you begin. I'm not sure if we did this when you appeared before in the electronic session, but I see that you're appearing for Design Build, the company.
Correct.
There is a ethics rule passed by the North Carolina State Bar concerning individuals appearing in a representative capacity in a quasi-judicial hearing, which is of course, as possibly raising an issue with unauthorized practice of law. The way we have dealt with this is to ask any individual that is appearing for someone else other than the individual owner of the property to be willing to state for the record that you agree and acknowledge that you're appearing as a fact witness only, that you will not offer arguments, will not express contentions, summarize evidence, present a case, question witnesses, do the sorts of things that a lawyer would do in a quasi-judicial hearing. You are appearing as a fact witness only and to answer questions to you. If you could just agree and acknowledge to that.
I will do my best.
Take care of that in detail. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We were at the last meeting presenting this, and I guess Roche may be the only person that was at that heard the case before. So another commissioner who's not here raised some points, and so we deferred to this meeting so we could gather more evidence. One of the points that commissioner raised was that our proposed fence height wasn't tall enough to sort of make the case for what we were saying. So we have revised this drawing to show a 66-inch tall fence. And so I'll walk you through the facts of why that is appropriate. Let's see. Okay, so we've also revised the drawing a little bit to show that the fence is now behind the front facade of the house. The previous drawing wasn't clear, but there's a note on the drawing now saying that our proposed fence is behind the front facade of the building. We are challenged here because we are on a corner lot. We do have a robust tree protection plan, and then also part of our application is this idea of putting a rear window, if you will, that's comes in a garage door form. So on the back of this non-historic garage, we're proposing to put essentially a floor-to-ceiling glass, transparent glass wall, using a garage door to do that. We did meet with DRAC about that, or about this part of the application, and they seem comfortable with it from the format of thinking about it as a large window, and also that it is in the backyard and not visible from the street at all. We're also proposing, I think this front garage door change is not being questioned at all. We are the front awning we're proposing. We see it as just matching what is on the front, what has already been approved to put on the front of the existing house. So the existing house is sort of a storefront style architecture, if you will, almost like a, it has this sort of front parapet wall situation, and as a minor work, we've had an awning installation approved for that part of the house, and so we think it's reasonable and appropriate to put the same thing on that similar storefront style front facade of the garage. Let's see. And I think we did, oops, sorry. All right. So you can see that in this lower left image, that sort of existing condition of that saloon front, and then the upper left, storefront, and then in the upper left, that sort of matching storefront condition on the non-historic building. Just a precedent for the glass in the front, precedent for the color of the fence we're requesting. And so this is a very unique structure in Oakwood in that it was built as a commercial building. It was a corner store. And there's very few of those situations in our historic districts. So one of the things we did was survey what we could find in historic Oakwood. So there's, there's that little commercial district there where the cafe is and the Lewis Cherry Architecture Office. And to the left side of that building there on North Bloodworth Street, there is a 67-inch tall fence. And I think the comment from the commissioner last time was that, well, your 48-inch tall fence isn't tall enough to hide anything. And that was sort of the case. Those were the facts we were presenting, that a taller fence would be appropriate for a commercial building to cover up some of those sort of commercial items that might have been, stored outside of building. And so we went back and documented some fences outside of previously commercial or existing commercial buildings, and also what was behind the fence, like to kind of show that these fences are functioning to cover things. Also, again, in historic Oakwood, another fence that is almost 80 inches tall. And then you can see some of the things that are hidden behind it. We also thought because there are so few examples of this that we would step outside of Oakwood. We know that's not characteristic of how the guidelines work, but there are a handful of other commercial former corner store buildings in our historic neighborhoods. And so this one is in the Brooklyn Heights Historic District. But we can see a former corner store has a 73-inch tall fence on the side yard just behind the front facade, and we can look behind it and we can see the commercial type items that it's covering. And then at the last meeting, our fabric awning, the choice of using fabric was sort of called into question, so we took a minute to do a quick survey of fabric awnings in our historic districts. This is in Boylan Heights. And we checked out the NC Archives Instagram account, and most of these pictures are taken from the sort of period of significance of the building that we're working with. You can see fabric awnings were used quite often. And then this is also a Photoshop rendering that we created showing the fabric awning over the garage door, so we could kind of see that it's not a big deal. And we've photoshopped the fabric awning over that's already been approved on the house component. So that's what we had for you. Pure fact.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant from the commission?
I've got a couple.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
You said that the lights on the door are transparent, and I'm seeing in here they're translucent on the rear door, transparent on the front. Is that correct?
Transparent is what we would like to amend the application
all around?
to say. Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
And is the front garage door still to remain functional as a garage door?
The front garage door is still to remain functional as a garage door.
Okay.
And just as a, not knowing where you might be going with that, Curtis, but the backyard slopes off, so there isn't really a chance of like driving through and parking cars in the back.
Yeah, I understand.
So you chose the garage door format because it offered the biggest space of windows.
It offered a
not
big,
necessarily because you wanted it to act as a garage door.
not for the purposes of driving a car through, but
You do
also
want to open it up.
they would want to open it up and
See.
have a big opening as well.
Okay, I have a quick question for you regarding the fence. So your rendering showed the awnings, but I think per your floor plan or for the site plan shown, there would actually be the fence in front of that, right?
That's true.
Okay.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure that's clear.
We did not render the fence.
Okay. And then also with regard to the comments about the increased height, as I kind of review the staff comments, where exactly, as far as increasing that height, did you say to 60 inches?
66 inches.
66
5 foot
inches?
6.
Is that all the way around,
That
or?
is all the way around.
Okay.
That's our request.
Are there any additional questions from the commissioners? Sandy, do you have any questions?
I don't, thank you.
Ian, any other questions? Okay. Curtis, are you good, or?
No, I'm good.
Okay, great. All right. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this matter present? Okay. At this time, I will close the public hearing and turn the conversation to the commission.
My initial thought, relative to the staff comments, seeing that we've moved to transparent glass on the garage doors, I think is the big question as to whether the all-glass door in the back is incongruous or not. That seems to be the core to this thing. My observation in the historic district, Oakwood Historic District, is that often on the back sides there is a substantial amount of glass, even on an historic structure, and these are through COAs that have been approved over time. This being a non-historic accessory building, I think gives us a little more latitude if we were to approve it.
I would agree with that, especially since it's on a non-character defining side.
As far as the fence goes and the awning, I almost see the two of them somewhat linked. We're talking about the character of a structure. If we're using the main building and an awning as a justification for it being the front of the building, and that awning, the justification of it being on there, justifying it being on the garage, it suggests that the garage is being viewed as a primary facade of the accessory structure, in which case the 66-inch fence would be inconsistent with the guidelines on the front. The side and the rear would be consistent with the guidelines and what's been approved in the past in the district. I think my instinct is to stay with the staff comments in terms of reducing the height of the fence in the front of the garage. And I still don't know that that justifies in my brain an awning on the garage in terms of historic precedent. Because I don't know of something that reads as a garage door that has an awning, and we haven't heard any evidence to the contrary.
I would agree with that. I also just kind of wanted to go back and add that I also kind of concur with the comments regarding the rear-facing door and the materiality selected for that with that clear glass. I think that also having observed the site, it is something that you can't really see from the street as far as just the kind of general character and impact on the historic districts. I think that I would agree with your comments on that.
And I think the same logic applies to the awning on the rear of the structure.
Yes.
That there should be there's no reason to object to it from an incongruity standpoint.
Right. However, to that point, I do think the statement about the awning and the suggestion that that garage door would somehow, by putting an awning over it based on the precedents shown in this evidence, would somehow suggest that it is meant to be, some sort of substantial threshold or entry, is not really compatible and a little bit deceptive, I think, with regard to, the approach to the historic character.
If the garage door was changed to a wall with a window like the rest of the structure, the awning would be a very easy yes, I think.
Right.
But that's not what we're looking at.
Right. Sandy, do you have any comments?
No, but I like yours.
Okay. All right. Okay. So it sounds like we might be ready to make a motion.
Get that sense.
Okay. You want to give it a try, Curtis?
I'll give it a shot.
All right, and I'm going to call on somebody else next time, so be prepared for that, guys.
I need help. It's been a long time. Let's see, I move that based on the evidence that's been presented in the application during the evidentiary hearing, the committee finds that the removing of the existing rear person door, installing a new side person door, altering the existing front garage door, installing a new rear garage door is not incongruous in concept according to guidelines, section 1.6.1.2.7.8, 2.72, and 2.79. And that the installation of an additional garage door in the rear facade and the installation of an all-glass garage door is not incongruous according to guidelines 1.6.8. And the following suggested facts, 1 through 5, amending fact 6 to say that the glass panels are proposed to be transparent, citing fact 7, adding fact 8, that the existing garage is a non-historic accessory structure and was constructed following COA approval in 2017, 025-17-CA. Parapet design of the garage reflects the style of formerly commercial building at the corner of the site. That I also move that installing of an awning in the front of a non-historic structure is incongruous, and the installation of an awning on the rear is not incongruous according to guidelines section 1.6.7, 2.7.10, citing facts 1 through 6. C, constructing a 66-inch tall fence is not incongruous in concept according to the guidelines sections 1.3.1.2, 1.4.6, 1.3.7.9, 1.4.1, and 1.4.8. However, constructing a 66-inch tall fence in the front yard is incongruous according to guidelines sections 1.4.11. With the following facts, 1 through 4. Fact 5 amended to say that the proposed fence height is 66 inches, citing facts 6 through 9. And that's it.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, great. And we can just go ahead and follow motion. Okay. And all in favor of the motion as presented?
Aye.
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 Okay, and that's unanimous. All right, and then do we have a follow-up?
Sure. Let's see. I move that, that we deny the installation of the awning on the front of the garage and approve the remainder of the application with citing conditions 1 through 4, deleting condition 5, changing 6 and 7's numbers by 1 up.
Right. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and that is unanimous. All right. Thank you again for your time this evening. All right, I will entertain a motion for Janine McCulloch to rejoin.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Come on back.
Mr. Chair, I need to recuse myself from the next case because I sat on DRAC when in this case came before DRAC.
Okay.
Therefore, I have previous knowledge.
All right. Can I have a motion to recuse Curtis from this case, the upcoming case?
So moved.
All right. A second?
Second.
And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And that's unanimous.
Your turn.
All right. Is the applicant present for, okay, COA case 1012, 2021, 1115 West Lenore Street? Okay.
Hey, there's actually going to be 2 of us, if that's okay. The landscape architect's also here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You both can come forward.
Verche, I'd like to state for the record that I do know Courtney Evans. She's an acquaintance of mine. I do not believe that this will affect any decision or opinion that I have, but I will leave that up to the other commissioners to decide whether they would like to me to recuse myself.
Okay.
You could just say unless there's an objection.
Proceed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could do it without objection unless you're overruled, which I don't expect you.
Okay. Is there any objection to Ian continuing on with this case from any of the commissioners?
I have no objection.
No objection.
Okay, great. No objection.
Ask if the parties have any objection.
Do you all have any objections as the applicant? Okay, great. All right. Okay, we can proceed. I will swear, are you going to present and then they can come up and then I'll swear them in? But I've already sworn you in, so I think,
We'll do it
right?
however you
Or
wanna
do
do
I
it.
need to swear you all in every time?
It's been done different ways in the past. We've done it every case, or the one at the beginning can count.
Do you think?
You could just acknowledge that staff has been sworn in and would note that they are sworn in, or she can raise her hand and just be sworn in this second time for purposes of this case. Doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
Just make sure it's covered.
All right. We'll just make a note that staff has been sworn in from here on.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, if you guys are ready. This is KCOA 0102, 2021, for 1115 West Lenore Street, which is in the Boylan Heights Historic District, a general HOD. The request is to construct accessory buildings, paint a non-historic concrete masonry building, a master landscape plan, which includes planting trees, removing a chain link fence, installing fences, installing artificial turf, installing a pathway, constructing a parking lot, and installing lighting. This is a view of the property from West Lenore Street. This is a view a little further down, looking directly on about the mid-property. This is a view of the existing brick building on the south side. Looking back towards the masonry building on the north side. And these are views of the existing property from the sidewalk. Staff's recommendation is to discuss the congruity of the proposed structures and the height of the screening fence and shrubbery along West Lenore Street. Oh, and I will also mention, I realized that I neglected to include in the staff report that this application did go before DRAC, as Curtis previously mentioned. It was at the April 5th DRAC meeting.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, at this time, we'll hear from our applicants. If you would, state your name and introduce yourself for the record, and I will swear you in.
Yeah, my name is Courtney Evans.
Okay. All right. Courtney, do you Miss Evans? Sorry, I should do that right. Sorry, Miss Evans. Do you solemnly swear to affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Great. All right. And we'll. Yeah.
Sure. I'm Jennifer Wagner, 227 Glasscock Street in Raleigh.
Okay. Great. And Ms. Wagner, do you solemnly swear to affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Great. Okay. And if there's anything you all would like to present to us or share, please, this is the time.
We do have a few items. That
Okay.
We have 10 copies. Do you want me to pass them around?
Sure.
Madam Chair, if I just may make the same instruction that I did in the previous case, that since the staff report indicates you're appearing for a business, if you would acknowledge and agree that you're appearing as fact witnesses only and not to present a case or examine witnesses or offer contentions on the issue in this case and do the kinds of things a lawyer would do before a quasi-judicial board such as the committee. Thank you.
I agree with that statement. Thanks.
Yeah, so, these additional documents we gave you, I think, are the kind of the most important pieces of information per the comments that we received from the group. So on the top 11 by 17, you'll see a plan view. That's Jennifer's landscape plan that you've already seen before. I've just dropped in a little person that shows where we put a pin in our model, looking from inside the fence on Lenore Street, looking west, what you would see inside the site. And basically, we're just showing that you won't see the buildings at all. You can see in the site section at the bottom of the page there how far the site drops off from the street to the accessory buildings we're proposing. And they're basically entirely screened by a very intentional planting schedule. So at this point, I'm just going to let Jennifer take it away. It's mostly a landscape project, so I thought maybe she could walk you through. Most of the questions were about the heights of the fence, the layers of the plantings, and all that kind of stuff.
Great, thank you. And I just want to state that the owner just walked in too, if we need any comments from her. So as Courtney stated, a lot of the comments that were received or that staff had brought up as being incongruous had to do with synthetic turf and had to do with the buildings themselves being typically out of character in this neighborhood. And just the visibility from the street itself. And so that's largely what we wanted to speak to tonight. We're happy to answer any other questions that you might have as well. First of all, as Courtney said, when you look at her, view rendering there and the section, the site really does drop off. And it is currently, as you saw from the photos, it's an industrial site. So it currently does not fit into the historic nature of the neighborhood. What we hope to do is to make it more in keeping with the neighborhood through landscaping, through a lot of screening, through a lot of native landscaping that we're looking to use. The synthetic turf that was brought up as not being in keeping with the historic nature, that would be at the rear of the site in an area that is for an off-leash dog area, and it again is lower and not visible from the street. And it's just for a portion of it to really help with mud control, making it a little bit nicer for folks as they're walking in. We're looking at using about 3,200 square feet. That area of the site, as you saw in the existing photos, is also very compacted. It currently is used to store a lot of equipment. It's been used for many, many years in that nature. So it's based upon that. We do not anticipate that planting grass there is going to do very well. So our plan is to have synthetic turf at the entry and have mulch as you get further into the site, which is a typical dog, off-leash dog area type of treatment to use. Because of that, we feel that it would not compromise the historic site or the district because it's not visible and because it would be further into the site. It's also a great product for durability and to control waste issues. We did bring some sample photographs. We weren't able to get samples in time, but you can see the product that we're looking at there on the upper left of your page. If you're looking at it in portrait view, is the product that we're eyeing as the one we'd like to use because it's specifically for canine treatment. And what that means, I've put some notes there to explain. It has a flow-through backing, so it makes it very permeable, which is another nice feature, so it would not become too compacted on the site. What we would do is put aggregate underneath it of about 4 inches and allow the water to flow through that backing, and then we're looking to do some under drainage to take that away. That allows for easy cleanup for the owner. It allows for a nicer look for the users. And then it also has a little bit shorter blade for easier cleanup as well. This particular product also comes with an antimicrobial treatment to help with any kind of germs or bacteria. We could use, I included the photo here that shows another product at the top of the page where there's 3 images of synthetic turf. That one is more of a landscape turf, and we could use that if it was deemed that that was more in keeping. It has a little bit nicer, finish to look more like real grass, but it is not as good at dealing with the waste issue, and it's not as good at dealing with the drainage issue. So that's why we're leaning toward the Canine Grass Elite. And with this newer product of the Elite, it does look a lot more like real turf. So as soon as we can get a sample of that, we can send that over. But they've worked in, as you can tell, some tan blades, some different colors into the blades to make it look more realistic, whereas the product on the right is sort of the older version, the Canine Classic, which is really more of a straight up kind of green turf to it. Any questions about that?
So just for clarification, the artificial turf area isn't for dogs.
It is for dogs.
It is for dogs.
That's right. Yep. Which is why we wanted to have the product that drains well and that is easier for waste pickup. That's right. Let's see, if you look at the rendering, let me pull up the one that we have here. Yeah. So it's this kind of brightish green toward the back of the site, that swath, and that is within the off-leash dog fence line, but it is lower on the site. And the reason it's sort of in that pattern is because that's where you would come in the gate. That's where you come in with your dog. That's kind of the little bit more high-use area. That's where we would have some dog fountains. So we wanted to keep it from being too muddy. Any other questions about the turf specifically? I could move on.
I do have a question for you. So I know that I'm looking at the colored landscaping plan here, and there is an area where there is a fescue mix proposed. And
yes, ma'am.
my question is, I guess, is there a distinction between why that will work in that location? And I hear you with the use that you're talking about, maybe not being kind of consistent with a grass or not standing up well to dogs. But, my question is, could that grow where you're proposing the synthetic turf?
Good question. So part of the reason why we felt we could try to get the clover fescue mix to work well back there, one, it gets a little less use. So it's it's not going to have as much traffic. So we think it can survive a little better. That's not where the people would be congregating. That's more where the dogs might run off in the corner. Also, that area, that corner of the site is a little bit less compacted. So the rest of the site, I think Courtney had an exhibit in the previous presentation that showed the limits of concrete and compacted aggregate, and it was quite extensive, but it sort of tapers off into that corner a little bit. Yeah, thank you. So those were the two reasons. Yeah.
Thank you.
What are your other options?
Mulch, probably.
Yeah.
Yep. That would
That's it.
probably be the best option. I mean, we could certainly try to do a clover fescue mix, but I don't think it's going to hold up all that well due to the compaction, due to the use, and you've probably seen in a lot of dog parks. At the Oakwood Dog Park, for example, they switch the sides a lot of times so that when one side's getting really worn out, they switch to the other side because the grass just has a lot of trouble holding up to that kind of wear and tear. Most other dog parks are mulch, and that, you know, it can get messy, it can get muddy. Yeah.
Any other questions from the commission? Any questions on the structure or anything? I know we've talked a little bit about turf.
And if I could,
Absolutely.
we also included a letter from an arborist about the tree in the back of the site. That was something that had come up previously as well. And because we are placing these containers on existing concrete that's really quite thick, the arborist agreed that they didn't see any trouble to the tree. So we just wanted to go ahead and point that out. That is really one signature tree on the site, so we want to do our best to preserve that tree.
Can you speak to the reasoning behind shipping containers?
That might be best for the architect to speak to.
Yeah, so there's a couple reasons for the shipping containers, but I think the first and main reason is just speaking to the industrial nature of the site. It's always been an industrial site. It was a coal yard, then it was an oil yard, and now there's literally a shipping container sitting on the site and has been there for God only knows how long. So in keeping with the story of the site and the family's history of the site, she really wanted to bring them back to something that told the story of what it has always been. So that seems to be the best option in that regard. The second reason is just for efficiency. Just like Jennifer mentioned, where that giant tree is, there's an existing really large concrete slab that we have in our survey, so I know you know how large it is. We can't dig that up and put footers down for a building. It would destroy the tree. So we're trying to keep the buildings tucked to the far west side of the site as far as we can for visibility from the street. And then to do that, we also don't want to destroy that tree. So the container allows us to put just isolated 4 footers per container into the ground and not disturb the root zones at all. So those are the 2 main reasons.
Thank you.
You mentioned that there's a container on the site. When I visited, I noticed that as well. Are you planning to use any of those that are on the site, or would these be kind of new containers? Just out of curiosity.
We'd probably use new containers, but they look exactly the same
Okay.
as what's there.
Okay.
Also, just for the record, I know you guys already know this, it's in the report, but I'm fairly confident this is the only industrial site in a historic district in Raleigh. So the uniqueness and specific nature of this one site can never be replicated across any precedent studies that's ever voted on in this room. And I think that should probably be considered when you're looking at this site. It's just so drastically different. It's in the historic district, but it has nothing. It's just so drastically different. It's the only industrial site on that side of town. And so the nature of it, if you're beaconing to its historic context in and of itself, we all agree that it should probably look industrial and feel industrial.
Great. All right. All right. I'll ask for final questions from the commission for the applicant. Okay.
Could I just get clarity, because I'm just not easily finding it? Would you just remind us what you're proposing for the height of your fence? I know the design of it, but where are we with what you were proposing?
Right. So Currently, there's a rather tall fence, a more like 5 to 6 foot tall fence around the site that's a security type of fence. The goal was to have another fence that would be similar in height that could possibly have a gate to be closed at night to sort of close that area off for the safety of the homeowner and just to kind of keep that site, keep people out of there when it's not to be used. I have read the comments about, typically 42 inches tall is what you're looking for in a historic district. We were also looking to add a green screen to that fence, so we planned on planting a vine on it to really kind of screen that fence. And then per code, we're required to plant quite a few shrubs along there too. So we had planned on planting shrubs. So the goal would be that it would be very invisible. It would sort of disappear, and it would just be there as a sort of security fence.
Right. Okay, if there's nothing else at this point, I will close the public hearing and turn the discussion over to the commissioners. Janine, do you have any?
I am not completely, I'm hearing the reasons why the synthetic turf sounds like a solution, but I have not seen us approve that, but in one case that I know of, and that was after multiple attempts at growing grass was proven not to be successful. So I don't feel as though we're there yet to just make to approve this turf application. As far as the nature of the containers, the shipping containers, I do think that I think there's been a good description of the nature of this industrial site, and to me that is congruous.
I agree with you on the shipping containers. I am mostly persuaded on the synthetic turf for this application, especially considering it's already been approved in one other case. But your point that they had to come back multiple times is a good one. So maybe they should try first. I don't know how that would work. But
Right. Well, I mean, if we deny it, they'll have to try something.
Again. Yeah.
I guess also in my thoughts too, is this the nature of the site one that would not be incongruous to see something like artificial turf there, being with the nature of an industrial, more kind of, not this residential landscape.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I think it's probably okay, is that this is a very unique site. It has very unique use.
I feel similarly, and just wondering if there's something that we can kind of say within here that expresses the way that it addresses the uniqueness of the site in a way that doesn't become precedent setting for other residences within the historic district.
I think that's important, especially given the reasons that you mentioned, Janine, but also that this has a particular use and it's not visible from the street.
So, and I guess, just a general, and I don't know if this is a question for staff, but just as far as, the implications of use with some of these sites, it's clearly, we don't discuss that at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Use is not something that is in the guidelines, so it's out of your purview.
Right. So in other words, knowing that that would stand up better for a dog run isn't a making that argument that it's congruous.
Thank you.
Okay. But certainly a sort of association with the industrial nature of the site and the kind of pocket of warehousing that's going on there, as opposed to the residential tie, could potentially be a justification for it. Maybe.
I guess I'm still not seeing that as the argument has been made that synthetic turf is congruous, even with this site and all the other landscaping that's happening here.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
And I guess we're going to be talking about the height of the fence and the landscaping as well.
Yes. All right.
I would argue, I would see the argument being that this again is a industrial site and that a taller fence would be something that you would see in an industrial type, you know, or a commercial type, not a residential property in this neighborhood. Although I do think the nature of it being horizontal, I think that isn't something that we have approved before the articulation of the horizontal members of the fence.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. You know, kind of even being out there, and I know what's out there now is kind of the a more of a privacy or security fence, but it does kind of have that height that is consistent with the sort of industrial nature of it. I would say when driving around the neighborhood as well with regard to vertical versus horizontal, there was a very, as stated in the staff report, there was a very, lots of evidence of vertical fencing as opposed to horizontal for this one, so. Ian, Sandy, any comments on the fence or the height of it?
Nothing. I agree with what y'all said.
Okay, great. All right. I think that covers the points of discussion, and we might be ready to make a motion. Ian, would you like to try a motion on this one?
Sure. Based upon the evidence heard in the evidentiary hearing and in this in the application, constructing accessory buildings and painting a non-historic concrete masonry building are not incongruous in concept according to guidelines 1.3.1, 0.2, 0.7.8, 0.9, 0.11, 1.6.6, 0.7, 0.9, 11. However, and constructing accessory structures out of shipping containers is not incongruous according to guidelines 1.3.9, 1.6.7, and the following suggested facts. 1. $11.
Looks like 17. 17.
And B, implementing a master landscape plan, including planting trees, removing chain link fences, installing fences, installing artificial turf, installing pathways, and constructing a parking lot is not incongruous in concept according to guidelines 1.3.1, 0.2, 0.7.8, 0.9, 0.11, 1.4.8, 0.10, 0.11, 1.5, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.9, 0.10, 0.11, 1.7, 0.4, 0.5, 0.9, 2.4.3, and 5. And the height of the proposed fences, I guess we could amend that, correct?
Yes.
I guess the height of their proposed fence is not incongruous in concept according to guidelines 1.4.11, and the installation of artificial turf is incongruous according to guidelines 1.3.1, 0.4.12, and the following suggested facts. 1 through 16.
Okay. Do we have a second on that motion as presented?
I second.
Okay. Great. All right. And Ian, do you have a follow-up motion for us?
I move that a certificate of appropriateness be issued with the following conditions 1 through 9, I think. We did.
There's a 10 on the
back page.
No. Okay.
And I
Sorry?
think we'll need to amend, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, 1 through 10.
And I think we need a friendly amendment to 6 about the height of the fence.
Mm-hmm. With an amendment on number 6 to, what did we decide? 660?
Did we have a number?
We have the current height of the proposed fence?
The public hearing is closed, but if you want to open it back up to get clarification, you can.
Just want to make sure it's not in this.
Did we say no taller than the existing fence?
Would you be satisfied with no taller than the existing fence? Let's open it up briefly just to kind of see what height they're planning on. Could you confirm the height of
It's
the
a
fence?
6-foot chain link fence.
6 foot. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. Now I will close the public hearing once again and proceed with the motion.
With the amendment on number 6 to 60 inches.
No taller than?
No taller than 60 inches. Would that change number 7 as well?
I think so. I think they would,
Sounds like
it would not exceed the height of the fence.
Right, right.
Just for staff clarification, is this a 60-inch fence of any type, or do you want it to be predominantly open, include the green screen? I guess more specificity would probably be best there.
That's why we didn't talk about the opacity of the fence.
Right. My thought is that knowing that we were not approving the horizontal, that we could we ask them to come back with a new design? I feel like that's just probably more information than we'll get to.
And that is 10B.
That is 10 feet?
10B
I'm sorry.
is
10
a revised
B.
fence
thank you.
design.
Okay.
If I may, I don't like to intrude in your findings, but this is fairly straightforward. In the major category B in your findings, under 4, there's a staff suggested finding that in both of these applications, no evidence was provided by the applicant to support congruity of synthetic grass. It might be appropriate to indicate that some evidence was presented on that in this case, just since that, I think, is not in dispute, and it was discussed at some length. Just an addition saying that evidence was offered on this subject by
Yes.
the applicant.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So Ian's motion was to, with those amendments, to issue the COA with the conditions 1 through 10, right? That's where we landed.
Yes.
Modifying the height of that fence and the shrubs not to exceed.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, and that is unanimous. Okay. Thank you all so much. Okay.
So for that one, all of the comments were
They
industrial nature and not necessarily like the rest residential nature. That was captured in some way, so it,
Should we bring back Curtis?
Oh, sorry. I'll entertain a motion to bring Curtis back to the commission.
So moved.
All right. Second. Oh, I can't second, can I? Do you have a second?
You can. One of the perks of
Okay.
being chairperson is that you get to put that on other members. You have the power, but generally it's deferred to the other members.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Come on back. All right. With the applicant for the next case, subdivision 0074-2020, 519 East Edenton Street. Come forward.
All right, this is case subdivision 0074-2020 for 519 East Edenton Street. It is in the Oakwood Historic District, well, a portion of the properties in Oakwood. As you can see on the map here, it's just this rear portion. And the request is to subdivide the lot in 2 parcels. This is a view from East Edenton Street looking east towards the property. This is another view further down, looking directly at the property from East Edenton. And this is a view looking west back towards the property. Staff's recommendation is to approve. And I believe that's all.
All right. At this time, if the applicant would like to, and if you could please introduce yourselves, and then I'll swear you in.
Yes, absolutely. My name is Jennifer Ashton. I'm a land use attorney with the firm of Longleaf Law Partners, and I'm here today on behalf of the property owner, Mr. Neil Monteparty. Monteparty. I'm getting tongue-tied there. And do you need to swear me in?
Yes.
Okay.
So Ms. Ashton, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Great.
Thank you very much. And I provided a handout for you. I thought some visuals would be helpful, just to kind of explain the property layout and some historical context for the previous lot divisions that existed on the site. And then I'll turn it over to Josh Crumpler, who is our civil engineer. He can go through the actual subdivision process with you and staff review that's occurred to this point in time. And then also the property owner is here in case anyone has any questions. So,
really quickly,
Yeah.
do you mind if we go ahead and get them sworn in? And
Absolutely.
Then that
Yes,
way
sorry.
we don't have to go
Absolutely.
back to
Go
it.
for it.
Okay. Could you state your name, please?
Josh Crumpler,
Okay.
the civil engineer.
Great. Mr. Crumpler, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Hi. Neil Motorparthy, the property owner. Thank you.
Great. And do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So just not to go into too much detail, because this is a subdivision and not just a typical new construction application. I did want to run through some historical context for you on what these property lines used to look like, and we are trying to return it somewhat to what it used to be. So on the first page of the handout that I provided, I just wanted to show you kind of how the property is situated in regard to the other surrounding properties. Going on to page 2, you'll see how just a small portion of the property actually is located within the historic district. It's about 1,300 square feet of a total 8,000 square foot site. And it is immediately adjacent to the NCOD. So I just wanted to kind of show you how those two overlay districts work together. Going on to page 3, this is an excerpt from the actual subdivision plans. This is just to provide you a quick oversight of what we're trying to do. We're trying to take these parcels and the single parcel and actually divide it into 2 parcels. These will be single-family residential lots, which we believe is consistent and compatible with the surrounding properties. Going on to page 4, this is called the Edenton Sandboard map. This was from 1914. And although the existing plat lines don't match exactly with what was occurring on the site in 1914, I thought it was helpful to provide this to you and show it to you, because it does show that the lot we're talking about now that's at 519 was actually 2 lots back in 1914. So again, there is historical context for having these 2 lots. Going on to page 5, again, these are just some aerials to show that there is historical context for having 2 lots. You can see I've outlined the property lines as they exist today over the aerial map, but just to show you, back in 1981, on page 5, there were 2 single-family homes and 2 separate lots. And then the same thing occurring in 1988 on page 6. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Crumpler now, who can offer testimony on the subdivision process to date. Thank you.
My name's Josh Crumpler. I provided the civil engineering subdivision process for this. The lot itself, or the main portion of the lot, is not within the character or the historic district. We've gone through the preliminary subdivision process. All trades have agreed and approved. So this is one of the final processes that we have to go through. One additional step that will be taken after the subdivision is approved, it'll go through the plat recordation, and then there'll be two lots for Mr. Motoparthy to build some homes on. During that process, or once that's approved, then the builder will submit plans for building, and then if there's any portion of those lots that or buildings that are within this district, they'll be back in front of you guys for that. Tree protection, tree permitting, that'll come during the building permit process for the tree impact permits. That'll be a later portion. Other than that, it's a fairly straightforward, small little lot in downtown Raleigh for you.
Just wanted to add 2 things. I don't have any plans to build anything in the historic Oakwood part of the lot. It's just there for the minimum square footage, and we already had this approved previously by RHDC when the process was a little bit different. I think back 2 years ago, and so it was approved back then. But I think the process has changed, and so we have to come in front of you guys for this. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions from the commissioners for the applicants? No? Okay. Would anybody else in the room like to offer comment? Oh, yes, please.
Kirsten Cohagen. I submitted material, so I don't know if it's been reviewed or if I should speak to it now. Maybe not.
It was included with the agenda items on board docs, yes.
Okay. Would you like me to?
Oh, I need to swear you in. Yes, absolutely.
Pardon me. Would you like me to speak to it, or has it been reviewed and?
You're more than welcome to speak to it, but as you are speaking today, I need to swear you in really quickly first.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay. Well, I did include some pictures, I guess, for the presentation. I don't know how that works. Perfect. Thank you.
Do you want to start on this, or do you?
I can move it. I can move it.
And if you want it full screen, I think he said.
Okay, that's fine. All right. I'll just speak on this first screen here. Okay, so thanks for allowing me to speak at this evidentiary hearing. I am Kirsten Cohagen. I live at 102 Northeast Street, so it's the house adjacent to this. It's in the red square up there. So it's at the corner of East Edenton Street and Northeast Street. The applicant's property was previously the rear east end of my property, or at 102 Northeast Street. The lot was subdivided by the previous owners and sold to the applicant, Neil Motoparthy. The subdivision was finalized and recorded on the 24th of May, 2017. It was the day prior to my closing. So East Edenton Street which runs along both of our property lines. It's a 4-lane, 30-mile-per-hour road, and it's the largest one-way westbound street into downtown Raleigh. Traffic moving into downtown is already slowed by numerous driveways, curb cuts near the intersection of East Edenton and Northeast Street. First, there's 16 Northeast Street directly across from the applicant's property. Currently has a driveway in use on East Edenton about 90 feet from the intersection. Second, Go Raleigh bus stop. It's 15 downtown Go Raleigh station, Go Live 8659 on East Edenton Street. It's about 30 feet from the intersection on the same side of the road as the applicant's property. I have it in the picture up here. Third, there's an existing curb cut situated between the intersection and the lot proposed for subdivision. As a result, the intersection's already highly congested, and the subdivision of 519 East Edenton for the purpose of constructing 2 single-family homes will increase parallel parking and slow traffic even further. The negative effects of the applicant's request are not of concern to him. The applicant will not reside at the property. It was purchased for development and sale as part of the applicant's business. So needless to say, his concerns are not aligned with those of us living around the intersection, where those concerns relate to traffic congestion or safety. So since purchasing my home in May of 2017, I've witnessed 4 car accidents at the intersection. One accident resulted in an overturned minivan. Others involved fellow homeowners' property at the intersection. I'd like to add that just this month, a fire truck sideswiped a parallel parked car on East Edenton in the contested area of parallel parking. So in this opposition, I've included pictures of these accidents and will provide their respective police reports upon request. Beyond traffic congestion and safety, the applicant's plans do not fully comply with the city's urban forestry conservation efforts. The urban forestry section of the preliminary subdivision review states the landscape plan submitted to NC Department of Transportation must include the location and species of trees in the right-of-way. This section also indicates that a tree protection fence is required for protecting critical root zones. The landscape plan submitted by Crumpler Consulting Services, PLLC, states there were 2 trees located within the right-of-way, as can be seen from Google Streets View. However, the western tree has fallen and been removed. The eastern tree has been noted as requested to be removed. So let's see. Scroll all the way down. So parenthetically, I'd like to add the western tree fell in my yard. And the insurance stated the tree fell due to rot, which falls in the category of negligence. So you can review the emails between the applicant and myself and the materials submitted on this matter, but this is that tree. The landscape plan inexplicably fails to mention a very large 36 to 42 inch diameter walnut tree in the southwest corner of 519 East Edenton. So it's pictured here on the left. So here's another picture of it right here. And you can see it's overarching its limbs here going over East Edenton Street. This is my house, this blue one right here, and you can see the limbs. Which lies in the right-of-way. Because of this omission, tree protection fencing required to protect critical root zones of this tree is nowhere addressed. This approximately 170-year-old tree reflects the historic nature of Oakwood and its surrounding houses, such as mine that was built in 1868. So I actually received a notice dated 27 July 2020 from Anthony McLam, City of Raleigh Arborist, stating, "This letter has been sent to inform you that this tree originating on your property at 102 Northeast Street, Raleigh, North Carolina, which violates the City of Raleigh's Code of Ordinances with respect to trees projecting into the right-of-way. The tree in question is located along East Edenton Street side of your property and has low limbs encroaching the road, sidewalk, and bus stop signage. These low limbs interfere with the safe and unimpeded passage of motorists, pedestrians, and needs to be pruned." The letter goes on to state, City of Raleigh code dictates that you be informed via certified letter, be given 15 days to comply with the notice. The date on the certified mail receipt will serve as date of notification. The subject of notice is the mentioned omitted 36 to 42 inch diameter walnut tree. I promptly contacted Anthony McLam and informed him this tree is along my lot line, but it lies in the property of 519 East Edenton Street. I emailed photos and a 2017 survey to convey the lot lines. Anthony McLam acknowledged the error and sent the certified letter to 519 East Eaton Street property owner at the lot address. He received no reply from the applicant. Anthony McLam then sent a second certified letter to the applicant's residential address. To date, no action has been taken by the applicant to comply with this city notice. While the City of Raleigh and RHDC are thoroughly addressing the applicant's requests, he takes no action to comply with their code of ordinances. This goes yet again to demonstrate the applicant's character and lack of concern for the historic district. In sum, the applicant's subdivision request should be not denied, not only because the application fails to address all of the city's requirements, the request should be denied in light of impacts the subdivision would have on public safety and transportation and the character of Raleigh's historic downtown area. I've provided photographs and documentation to support all said. Thanks for your time, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Are there any questions from the commission? Okay.
One question. Looking at the proposed subdivision plan, I noticed that there's an existing CP&L easement on the eastern section of the new Lot 2. Does that easement continue into the panhandle within the historic district, or does it end before the historic district?
Our survey did not provide that easement. It wasn't shown, so I'm not sure where it terminates.
Okay.
And the panhandle isn't included in this square footage of the Lot 2?
Yes, it is.
I guess it might be.
The little flag piece going up towards the north, that's included in
the 0.93 acres?
Yes.
Or 0.093?
Yes.
Because it looks larger, but I guess that might be just a.
It's the scale of it. It took me a while to figure that out as well too.
Would the applicant like to provide any response?
Yes, please. If I could ask Mr. Crumpler a few questions in rebuttal, and then I think we'll be good to go. Mr. Crumpler, with respect to the traffic flow on Edenton Street, did the city transportation department approve your driveway location?
Yes, they did.
And what about the North Carolina Department of Transportation?
They've stated that it would be approved pending the subdivision approval process.
Okay, and then, sorry. With respect to the tree on the western property line with 102, yes, the one right there. Thank you. Could you describe a little bit about the tree protection area and when that actually comes into play in the city's process?
So it would come in during the site permit review process if the site would go through that process, since it's less than 12,000 square feet of disturbed area and we're not extending any public utilities or public infrastructure. We're not having to go through the SPR process. So the site will have to go for building permits, and then the trees, if they are located within the right-of-way, would be addressed for the tree impact permit, which is handled during the building permit process. So it would go through that process.
And one final question, is the tree that's on the photo on the screen, is that located within the historic district?
It's not located within the historic district either.
Thank you, that's all we have.
If I may, it's probably appropriate at this point just to remind everyone that this is a subdivision case, and typically the practice is to look at lot lines, the configuration of lots, and the size of the lots only. The only issue that's before you today is just simply the act of creating two lots out of one, and the lots as they are sized and shaped. Any future development, of course, within the district on either of the parcels that you might approve being created is subject to a COA. And there are other issues that were raised by the speaker concerning the site and issues on the site, but you all have the authority only to address the question of the subdivision itself as being congruous or incongruous with the guidelines.
We did invite city staff who reviewed the application if you had any questions to pose to them.
I have one last question on the subdivision. The panhandle section of the lot, what's the rough area of that? Is it roughly 1,200 square feet?
1,400 square feet.
Okay.
And a quick question for staff, I think. Once, or if this lot were to be subdivided and then only half of it is now still part of the historic overlay district, as far as which aspects of it go through a COA process, is it just that side that is tied to the overlay?
Only any development that is located within the portion of the property that's in the historic district would be reviewed.
All right. Are there any other questions? Public questions? Okay. At this point, I will close the public hearing and turn to discussion for the commissioners. Are there any comments?
Well, I can add a little history. I know the COA review of subdivisions came about to answer the question as to whether the resulting subdivision would result in an unbuildable lot under the COA process. So the inherent question is, can something be built on this lot? Because in North Carolina, and Mr. Raspberry, please correct me if I'm wrong, by right, if you have a lot, you can build on it.
With some lawyer qualifications, I think what you've said is accurate.
Okay.
There's a good chance that there could be of an actionable taking if a lot of record is not able to secure a permit to do anything economic on that lot.
Okay. As far as what I'm seeing here, we've heard that 1,300 square feet of the 4,000 square feet of the new lots in the historic district. So the new lot number 2 is not substantially part of the historic district. The primary portion of both lots are outside of the historic district. We've heard that a previous COA for the subdivision has been approved. And staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the guidelines are silent on the question of subdivisions of lots. Is that correct? Yes? From my point of view, the testimony that we can consider here are kind of limited to those facts, regardless of the other testimony's veracity. We're not allowed to look at it. So my inclination would be to approve this based on those facts.
Considering we can only look at lot lines and the congruity of building houses on said lots, and that the lots that are proposed are very similar to the lots that were there in 1914, and also nothing's changed since we approved this last time, has it? We approved this in 2018. Nothing's changed. So
Correct. It's the same proposal. The previous application was not completed by the owner, so they're just reapplying for the same thing, but the process has changed since that first review.
Okay.
So that's why we're here.
So I agree with Curtis.
I agree with what's been said.
All right. It sounds like we're ready to make a motion.
I'll give it a shot.
Okay. Go for it.
I move that based upon the evidence that's presented in the application during the evidentiary hearing, the committee finds that the proposed subdivision of the lot into 2 lots is not incongruous, citing the following facts. 1, that a 1,300 square foot portion of one of the resulting lots, which is a total of 4,000 square feet, is in the district. 2, that the primary portion of both lots are outside of the historic overlay district. 3, that a previous COA has been approved. And 4, that the guidelines are silent on the question of how to consider a subdivision.
Curtis, do you have a copy of the staff report?
I do not have it in my hands. Okay. I'd like to amend what I've just done.
Let's try again.
You just Give me 1 second to make sure I'm
Sure.
checking all my boxes. Okay, let's try that again. I move that based upon the evidence presented in the public hearing, in the application during the evidentiary hearing, the committee finds that the subdivision of 519 East Edenton Street into 2 lots is not incongruous with the special character of Oakwood based on the following facts, citing facts 1 through 6. That's it.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that is unanimous.
Okay.
And the follow-up motion?
I move that the certificate of appropriateness be approved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Right, and that is unanimous as well. Okay. Thank you all very much.
So we are into the deferred applications portion of the meeting, and we do have one application listed that needs a vote for deferral.
Right. I would entertain a motion to defer COA application 0027-2021 704 Dorothea Drive.
And may I just clarify, this is because they have not been ready to come back to us, and we just need to extend their deferral.
Correct. There was a scheduling conflict with today's meeting.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that's unanimous. Okay. And we don't need to vote on the Person Street one, right? Okay.
That's correct. They had elected to defer their hearing to in-person meetings, but the timeline between when we found out that this would be in person was too short, so we gave them until next month.
Okay, great. All right. Is there any other business? Anyone has?
You guys did a great job doing your in-person meeting. Congratulations, Verche.
To everybody, thank you. All right, I guess I need to formally adjourn. I don't think I have a note on how to do that. Do I just say this meeting is adjourned?
Say without objection.
Oh, without objection, I will adjourn this July Certificate of Appropriateness meeting. Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Yay. You did great.
Yeah. Whew.